follow on me. We're marching out into the night. Follow on me. We're standing up against a giant. Follow on me. We might be walking in the fire, but if it's where we're meant to be, then on me.
Okay, well, I show it as 1513, and for those of you who have joined us on our previous podcast on Me 20, you know the significance of that is John 15:13, which says, "Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down their life for their friend." And that's what my son Mark did. He was the first Navy SEAL that was killed in Iraq, August 2nd, 2006. And for me, that's a day that forever changed my life. I didn't have any choice. The news that was given me that day, I could have plugged my ears. I could have refused to listen to the CACO officer, but that wouldn't have changed the fact that my son Mark had been killed. But I did have a choice how I responded. My choice was to put on his boots, pick up his weapon, and stay in the fight for every man and woman who's served, stay in the fight for every other family who's lost a loved one. And it's been my honor to do that for almost 14 years through the Foundation America's Mighty Warriors that I started. And one of the things Mark talked about in his amazing last letter home was doing random acts of kindness. He said we could change our world by doing random acts of kindness and our reputation as a country. And so this is our random act of kindness back to you. Mark ends that letter with, "To my family and friends, do me a favor. Pass on the kindness, the love, the precious gift of human life." And I can't think of anything better to do in the midst of coronavirus than to pass on that kindness and that love and that precious gift of human life. So we're here today to do that for you as our gift back to you. So we hope that you enjoy it. We are excited to have Herb Thompson on the show with us today. So Herb, welcome. We're excited to have you.
Happy to be here, Mama Lee.
Yep, I think it's the bearded man and the lady.
That's a movie or a book or something. Both.
Yeah, let's make it happen, right? But we're excited to have you here, and I want to read your official bio to make sure I get all the details on it right, because we're very grateful for what you've done for our country. Herb Thompson retired in March 2019 after over 20 years in the U.S. Army. He culminated his service as a Special Forces Green Beret Team Sergeant for 3.5 years in the 5th Special Forces Group, the Legion. Before earning his Green Beret, he earned the 2008 U.S. Army Drill Sergeant of the Year Award. He is the only person in the history of the Army to have earned this award and the Green Beret. Herb started his military career in human resources because he's colorblind. He is the Amazon best-selling author of The Transition Mission, A Green Beret's Approach to Transition from Military Service. He earned a BS in Business Studies from Southern New Hampshire University Online. He attended the Tuck Next Step Graduate Certificate Program at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth and a student in Cornell's EMBA program. During his retirement from the Army, Herb founded SF2Biz, a 501c3 organization with a mission to empower Special Forces veterans to seize opportunities in business. He is currently a management consultant and resides at his slice of heaven in the woods near Washington, D.C. In his free time, Herb supports veterans in transition, hikes with his spoiled Labradoodle Liberty Bell, and spends time with his 2 amazing young sons. Herb, welcome and thank you. Oh my gosh, what a career. You know, it's pretty amazing just to become a Green Beret, but to have that award as Drill Sergeant of the Year as well. Thank you so much. You know, we've just been blessed, those that have joined as our guests. And, you know, this is one of those things that every one of our guests have donated their time to be here. They get paid professionally to do that. And they said, Mama Lee, we want to help that mission. And so we want to give back as well. So thank you for passing on the kindness and the love as well. So thank you. Welcome.
No, of course, Mama Lee. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, obviously, what you've gone through inspires others. So all of us are just kind of following behind you, doing our best to help others. And this is a great opportunity to do that.
Well, thank you. We're excited to have you. Tell me a little bit more about growing up, your family, you know, your family now.
So I think I grew up probably a couple hours away from General McFarland yesterday in upstate New York, in a small town outside of it. That was probably the first where, you know, my formative years where I learned a lot of lessons was we were pretty poor. Both parents had factory jobs, and then my dad lost his and had to go on welfare. And at the time was embarrassing to me as like a high school freshman to have my dad on welfare. And now I'm going to school, and I was like captain a lot of sports teams, stuff like that. So it was, at the time, I look back and I'm embarrassed to say it, that I was embarrassed. But now it's probably the best gift I ever learned was he didn't care. He swallowed his pride and did what he had to do. So I grew up there, but I knew from an early age I was going to join the Army. And at 16, I called a recruiter and they're like, "What are you running from?" I was like, "No, I just want to join the Army." And they literally were giving me a problem about that. They call back when you're 17. So I called back the week 4 of 17. "Hey, let me join the Army." And they're like, "No, what are you running from?" And I was like, "Hey, I'm about to call the Marine Corps recruiter. If you don't step up." Because I had some distance relatives that served, but nobody in my, immediate family. And so they listened to me then. I joined and I went to, sign up, and they're like, "Oh, you tested all good and you're colorblind." I was like, "Yeah, I knew that." And they're like, "You can be a chaplain's assistant or these couple jobs." And I wasn't thinking about being a career then. I was pretty disappointed, but I was like, "Hey, which looks best on a resume?" And they put me in human resources. So I was like, okay. And then that kind of led me on my journey I had 2 goals: to be a drill sergeant and earn my Green Beret. You can't be colorblind and be a Green Beret. So I had to overcome that, figure it out. And, after a while, I was able to conceive a plan to pass the colorblind test. And I did that. And then, the rest is history with my career. And then now, fortunately for me, I get to have my sons down here because they normally live in New York State back with my ex-wife. So it's great for me to have them here, be able to spend extra time with them because I only get them when they're off of school. And I know everybody's not as fortunate, but this is fortunately a good situation for me.
Yeah, there are benefits to coronavirus, and we've heard that, from other people. And I think, anything in life that we go through, and that's one of the things I always encourage people: wake up in the morning and find one thing to be grateful for. And I think when we start to do that, that develops that habit, and it's contagious. And then throughout the day, we're like, "Oh, well, okay, even though this is terrible, I can be thankful for this," and I think that makes such a huge difference. And I joke at the colorblind, I chuckle a little bit when I hear you say that, because my oldest son served in the Marines, and he was totally deaf in one ear when he went in. And when he came home and told me he called, he was living in Colorado at the time, and said he joined the Marines. And I was like, "How did you get in? You're deaf in one." He goes, "I just did what the recruiter told me." I'm like, "I don't want to know." So when you said you did what it took to pass, I kind of went, "Okay, I get it. But, so thank you so much. One of the things in the midst of coronavirus, as I said before everybody jumped on the call, it's affected so many people in so many different ways. And I know there are people, and we could even have listeners on today, that have lost their jobs, don't know how they're going to feed their kids next week. We may have some that are listening or that will watch, the video in the future, that will have lost a loved one to this horrific virus. And it's just impacted people in so many different ways. People that have had businesses and poured years and lives into getting them finally where they're getting a salary. I had my own business for a while. It's not easy starting and running a business. And now to find out they've been closed for, some of them for 2 months. We've seen people on the other extreme. If they're selling toilet paper or disinfectant, they're profiting and they're doing well, but a lot of people are not. And so as I put this idea together, and Ryan and I developed this, my heart was to be able to encourage people. Our men and women in the military, our Gold Star families, I'm used to being around them all the time and being able to give them encouraging words and love on them and hug them. And I can't do that right now. So it was like, how am I going to do this? So our guests that have come on, we've asked them to share something in their life that's maybe been the most difficult thing they've ever gone through, and then what things they did to overcome in the midst of that, hoping that will encourage some of our listeners with what they're struggling with right now.
Yeah, so this probably exactly almost 8 years ago, so April 12th of 2012. So if my math checks out, that's roughly 8 years ago. My special forces team, we were in Afghanistan, and I want to set the scene so it kind of makes sense. And we were leading commandos. So we had indigenous force. We would go in with them. There would be a few of us, maybe 8, 10 Americans, maybe a few more. And then we would, take in 60 to 80, 200 Afghans, and we would conduct operations. And essentially we would just go in and take care of the enemy. That's what we did. and we got tasked to do a quick, fairly quick for us, less than 24 hours kind of notice to go secure some high value equipment that had been stolen from some allies, some heavy sniper rifle, stuff like that. So we kitted up, we planned, we went, had a good firefight, getting through there. Good for us, not good for the enemy. And we got through there, and then, okay, job's done, let's go home. And our higher command said, no, you don't know this, but last night you killed a high value target. They're holding a funeral nearby. You need to go essentially hit the funeral. And we had ammo still because we went in heavy, but we were low on our batteries because we were planning to go and just do this overnight. And we were running out of water. We were out of water. So we sat there, our command, my leadership fought back and forth with them. And eventually, instead of having us walk 5 or 6 miles to get there, they flew in some helicopters for us. So they flew in some helicopters, threw some bottles of water at us. We drink them down. They let it down the ramp. We run off the helicopter, and there up on a hill is the funeral breaking up of like hundreds of people just running like cockroaches. And we're in the wide open, like 3-4 football fields to go to get to some cover. And it was like, let's go, boys. I know you think Mark said on me, and I didn't say on me, but it probably was some expletives and follow me. And we just started running to get out of that wide open valley or wadi. We go over there, and by the time we get over there, the funerals broke up. But you can imagine these people are pretty upset. So we're checking them out, and then we're like, hey, we can't figure out who's who. We move, and we're set up for exfil. Helicopter's going to come in and get us. Everything's good. This is great. We're heroes. We saved some stuff. We pissed them off at their funeral. A job well done. And we're next to a hillside, and where the funeral had been broken up. And I went to the commando leadership. I was like, hey, we need to push out. We just pissed them guys off up there. Let's push out. And we pushed out into the open, and we're sitting there. And I mean, by this time I'd been up probably 36 hours or something. And I was sitting there, and I looked, and I was like, was that a gunshot? And about the time I thought that was a gunshot, like a bullet struck right there, probably 4 or 5 feet from my foot. All, hell broke loose, and machine guns, they had maneuvered and put an ambush on us. And just the worst thing I've ever seen compared to something that you can see on the movies, with just like, how do I not have holes in me? Went to jump over a wall. My jumping abilities weren't as good as I thought they were because I didn't make it over the wall. And once a round hit right here by my nose, I was like, heck with this. I ran. So a few people made it over the wall. A few people ran in this alley. And now there's probably 50 of us in this alley in the middle of a field. It's Afghanistan. So if that doesn't make sense, people who've been there will make sense of like why there's an alley and a courtyard kind of on the edge of a field of nowhere. And then all the other people, but I lost my helmet, lost my headset, lost parts of my weapon. And we're sitting in this alley, and we're trying to yell to each other, figure out what's going on. And they're just shooting machine guns at us, but none of it's coming up the alley. But I was like, well, all I got to do is maneuver, and then we're all dead because if they just move. So there's walls in Afghanistan. They're usually made of mud, and they put some other stuff, hay, crap, and stuff in there. And I was laying on my back, and I was like, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to not die sitting here, just laying here doing nothing. So I just started kicking that wall, and eventually I kicked through it. And I was like, yes, I crawled out in the open, and I'm in a wide open field now, which I should have known. And there's the village that we just broke the funeral up, and here's the people shooting at me, and people are pouring out behind me. And I'm like, stop, because now we're in the wide open, and the machine gun fire is just taking that wall down. And this went on probably for about 10 minutes. Our Air Force, CCT, basically a guy in charge of calling in bombs, he's screaming on the horn on the radio, trying to get people in, and they didn't, they had to get aircraft to us. And I knew I was going to die. There was no doubt about it. These people, I don't know, it ended up being that 3 to 5 machine guns and some snipers shooting at us. These people, I just broke up their funeral with my buddies and all our people. So I was like, I'm dying right here. And I knew it. I was 100%. I was like, at any moment I'm going to die. Rounds are hitting all around. And I said, well, I'm going to control how I die. I'm not going to let them control my attitude. And I smiled. And I have this big smile. And the Navy EOD guy next to me goes, hey, Herb. And I look over, and he take a picture of me. And it's the ugliest and most beautiful picture ever, because I'm smiling. There's dirt on my face, in my mouth. It's just ugly. And not that I have a face for radio anyway, so it's not that great anyways. And I'm just like, well, I'm dying, and this is going to be it. And within a few minutes, an F-15 came down through, and he could not figure out where the enemy was, but he knew if he just came down and did a low pass, and he was maybe 100 foot off the ground, which is kind of unheard of. And he just came streaking through there at about 500 miles an hour. And I'm getting chills here thinking about it. And, you know, we're all just like, okay, now we're going to make it. And that it was that little bit of hope, having something to hope in. And we're like, we're going to make it. We end up dropping bombs, clearing out the enemy. We have one bomb that doesn't detonate, bounces up, starts coming at us. It was almost from like a cartoon. And we're like, that thing didn't detonate, and it went back in the ground, didn't blow up, but it was coming towards us. So we do this, kind of what I thought was the enemy fire got settled down. About an hour later, we're getting ready to go, maybe a half hour. Helicopters are inbound to pick us up. And I was sitting there getting all our commandos, our Afghan fighters who were awesome, into like position so I could get them on the bird. And I looked up and I saw almost everybody else on the team, all the Americans, were on a hillside shooting with like every sniper rifle, every machine gun. And I was like, hey, Jeremy, and he was our acting leadership, our senior medic. And I was like, hey, what are they doing? He's like, yo, bro, we're still getting shot at. And I was like, what do you mean we're getting shot at? And he's like, yeah, for the last half hour, man, we've just been getting shot at the whole time. That's why them guys are up there. There's still a couple insurgents out there. They don't have machine guns, but they got sniper rifles, or we didn't know, but they were shooting at us. And I was like, well, why didn't you tell me? And he's like, oh, I thought you were doing the Patton thing to inspire the troops. And you're walking around like all big and tall. And he's on, and at this point I realized he's on a knee. I'm standing there. Everybody else is laying down. But I think what it did was I focused on my task, what I had to do. I had to get the people ready. We're going. And I was so laser focused on that task, I didn't realize we were getting shot at. So a benefit was they were all inspired because, hey, Herb's up there doing the big thing. And I was just being an idiot because I didn't know we were getting shot at, because I probably would not have been walking around like that. And we end up exfilling, but it was just such a pivotal moment because being a Green Beret and just other stuff in my life, there's many times where I've come close to death or should have died. But that day I knew 100% I was going to die. There was not a doubt in my mind at that moment. And I just said, well, I'm going to control what I can control. And I'm going to smile. They're not going to take my spirit, my attitude away from me. And then fortunately, the bird came down, got hope again. And, the rest is history. But that, I think if you can, people dealing with difficult times, and I know everybody's not getting shot at now, but there's a lot of uncertainty, and just focus on the task at hand. I think that could be pretty important. We lose sight of that and put our minds to stuff we can't control.
Wow, that's so good. And I love that even at your final moments that you thought you were actually dying, you still said, I'm going to control this. I may not have any choice that this is, that they're going to take me out, but I'm going to control my attitudes to that very last moment. God bless you. A lot of people don't have that stamina to do that. But I love how you tied that in about the hope. And I think that's what we want to pass on to people, that even though circumstances may be terrible right now, there is hope. The sun is going to come out tomorrow. Yes, right now it's terrible, but we have to focus on those things that we can control. And I, yesterday in the podcast, talked about that this is a battle that we're in right now. Yes, they're not being fired on. No, they're not in Afghanistan. No, they're not in Iraq or some other, third world country. But they are fighting for their, jobs. They're fighting to feed their families. They're fighting to keep their businesses alive. And so it is a battle. And they got to kit up, as you said in the beginning. You got to put your armor on. You got to be prepared for battle. It's a different kind of a battle. And as I deal a lot with our veterans who are transitioning out of the military, and I know yours is fairly recent as well, so many of them, they don't have that sense of purpose. They don't have that new mission established. They're not sure what it is they're going to do. And so we need to figure out, find that one thing that we are going to focus on in the midst of this. We need to push through. We need to make sure, don't waste your time on those things that you can't control. We can't control coronavirus. We can't control when each state opens back up. But just as I had no choice, the news I was given to me on August 2nd, I did have a choice how I responded. and you had a choice how you responded. And I love, you inspire me that till that final moment, you were saying, nope, I'm going to control my attitude and how I respond to this, even though this could be my final breath. So thank you so much for inspiring. Are there other things that you can think of, experiences that you've had in life that would help motivate people, encourage people? You know, we've got, obviously we're a military foundation, so I would say, you know, good percentage of who we have on here or former military, current military, but we do have a lot of our supporters and friends who are jumping on here too, who may not have that experience. What practical things from what you've learned before can you give advice to them in other areas that they can do?
Yeah, I think, you know, transition out of the military is, a lot of people don't understand how difficult it is, because it's not just replacing a job. It's replacing a way of life. It's somebody's given up a whole identity where, for lack of better words, they were probably some of the most important people in the world on any given day. Depending on where they were, at least in that area they were especially deployed, they were making decisions. And let's be real, whether somebody lived or somebody died, or whether they were going to protect somebody, bring stability to a village, to another country, keep people away from here. And then you give that up and you're just hurt, in my case. And I think being okay with that, of like, that is what I did. That's fine. What is my new mission? And you brought up Mama Lee, and I love it, because it is, what is that new mission? Everybody has to have a goal. I mean, I know in like Forrest Gump, they have the feather floating through the movie, but like, we're not feathers. Or you could be a feather and then who knows where you go, but take control, own your journey and say, this is where I want to be. And that takes some introspection and figuring out, okay, this is who I'm going to be. This is where I want to be. Let's get there. And let me put the work in towards that and figure that out. And maybe it's part of it's a job. Part of it's finding that identity, finding that brother or sisterhood again, finding people you can link up with, finding organizations like yourself and others that could be their new team, you know, their tribe that they left behind. There is that. And I think a lot of people focus on the job. I need to get a job. And that's important, but there's a whole lot, you know, not having a job is not going to kill you, but losing the will to live, losing focus, not having a mission, that will kill you. So it's finding that, what is that going to be? And it evolves. It may not always, you know, stay the same, but what is my mission right now? What is my next mission? That's how we had success in the military, was moving from mission to mission, goal to goal, keep doing the same thing once you're out. And that'd be what I would tell folks, is just, you know, work towards something, do what you can right now. And it's okay to take a knee, ask for help, and then keep on moving again when you're ready to go.
And I think that's the sign of a good leader. None of us got it all figured out. None of us are at that 100% level. We got every skill, every talent that we need. We're good to go. I've arrived. If you think you are, probably maybe pride might be a little issue there you might want to deal with. But we can continue to better ourselves where we're at. And it is not a sign of weakness to say, I need help. The best leaders in the world surround themselves with people who fill in the holes for their weaknesses. And I think that's so important. And that is a sign of a leader. You know, lots of times I'll get our veterans that were, you know, struggling with PTS or TBI. And, you know, I've got a lot of SEALs that surround me, a lot of special forces guys, and you guys are like, yeah, no, there's people a lot worse than me. I got it. I'm okay. I'm like, are you having memory issues? Are you sleeping well? You know, is sleep a problem? Is anger? Yeah. You know, they're checking the boxes and all of them. I said, how are you going to be a leader and encourage other people to make themselves healthy if you're not willing to take that step? And then they're like, you're right, Mama Lee. I got it. I'm in. I'll do what I need to do. And so that is not a sign of weakness. I love that you brought up that you need to ask for help when you're in those circumstances.
Yeah, no, you're so right. And I mean, part of the reason why I did the transition mission, wrote it, was to share that with people. But I mean, here I was a guy who, I don't care. I was the Green Beret and I was drill sergeant, the one person in the history of the Army. And I did 2,000 informational interviews on my way out of the military to figure out what I wanted to do. I wasn't afraid to ask for help. If I can do it, anybody else can. And not that I'm special, but anybody can ask for help. It is that sign of strength. And that's how it's a sign of confidence of going, I know I don't know this. I need to go figure it out. Let's ask for help. And whether that's, you know, from some injuries through some stuff we're dealing with emotionally or mentally, go find somebody, get some help, find find a reason to believe, find a reason to go get help.
Yeah, that's so good, because that hope of knowing, and I think for our veterans, especially that are struggling when they get out, they go down that downward, spiral. They start self-medicating, alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever it is that makes them temporarily feel better. They've lost hope. They don't feel like there's any reason to live. Nothing's ever going to feel like it did when they were in the military. Nothing will ever compare. And so they don't have that new, mission that drives them forward. And so I think that's so important to develop that. And sometimes you need help doing that. Our Helping Heroes Heal program is there exactly for our men and women that are struggling with post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, that is combat related. And so please don't hesitate to reach out. We are here for you. Tell us a little bit more about your book. I'd like to know more details about that and some of the chapters and what you've got in there that you're encouraging our veterans.
Yeah. So first is to own your journey, and the thank you for your service. I say this a lot, is thank you for your service, not thank you for your service, and I'm going to give you a job. So realizing that we're not going to just get a job because we're a veteran. Once we get past that, like, what do I want to be? Okay, I was, in my case, a Green Beret. I did that. What is the next chapter of my life? Figuring that out. And if you can figure that out, then you can, if you have a plan, you can create a plan. The military, in most cases, in almost all fields of the military, you learn some form of planning. So use that type of planning to deploy in the United States of America. It's just going to be a little different. The language is going to be a little different, but it's kind of like if we went to Iraq, Afghanistan, any other country. It's a little different, and the language is a little different. Right. And just hopefully nobody's shooting at you. So just do that planning and then leverage all the resources out there. Organizations like yours, there's over 48,000 veteran service organizations out there to help. Now, not all great, but there's thousands that are great. You got to go seek that information, seek out help from others. People want to help you, but you got to seek it out. So do that. I'm a big believer in leveraging LinkedIn, just because who you come in contact with a daily basis. Now you can reach out to somebody. I was in Tennessee, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, trying to come to Washington, D.C. So I could reach out and talk with people and communicate with them. Do that. And then, okay, what are the basics? I need to have a resume. I need to do interview prep. I need to be able to articulate my value as a veteran, not just, hey, I served, give me a job, but this is how I'm going to increase your profits and loss of your company. Because that's why they hire us, right? And I think a couple of things that I struggled with and then overcame in the process, and many do that I talk to, I've talked with thousands of veterans, is it's I or me, not we. And we're so used to talking about the team, my special forces team, my SEAL team, my SEAL platoon, my Ranger platoon, my squadron, my ship. We did this. Well, they're not hiring we when you go there. They're hiring you. So you need to articulate your value and what you're doing there. And I know for me, a big thing, I would not tell people I was a Green Beret. You could peel back the onion, and maybe after half, I mean, obviously I would have told you probably fairly quickly, but because you're you, Mama Lee, but a random person that grabbed me at a restaurant or having coffee, hey, what'd you do in the Army? I do a lot of paperwork, because that was just me. But I also overcame that and realized I earned that right to say I was a Green Beret. And then I realized that opens some doors. Whatever our brand is, whether you're a Marine, Air Force, Navy, whether you're a fighter pilot or you're a cook, there's a brand that comes with that'll at least give you 30 seconds. Now, if you start talking to somebody and you're, for lack of better words, you're an idiot, how you're talking, well, then it's going to go away. But most veterans aren't, they're going to be able to articulate about themselves, and they're going to be able to have that instant credibility that gets doors open if they leverage that brand. And that'd be the big thing I would say, is those two things I struggled with. And once I realized to get past them, it was a game changer.
And I think the create a plan is so good for everyone right now, whether you're already transitioned out of the military, whether you're a spouse, whether you're, a friend or a supporter that's listening. Create a plan. A lot of people have a lot of extra time right now because of the coronavirus, because we're home, we're not driving to work. So we've got that extra time. The kids aren't, in school all day long. So there's extra time. So we need to create a plan, and you've got that time to do that right now. Start simple with that plan. Don't be overwhelmed by it. Start simple with that plan. this is a great opportunity to teach our children as well. I homeschooled my kids, and man, there were so many benefits in homeschooling the kids because you had life lessons that then they could take that book knowledge and apply to. So take advantage of teaching our kids those same things right now, and then develop that plan, as you get it. And like you said, bring other people in. There's wisdom in a multitude of counselors. Ask other people what they think about it. This wouldn't be the project that it is today if Ryan, hadn't called and said, Mom Lee, what do you think about this? Because I had something in the works, but he, brought to that. And we've got this amazing podcast. I've never one day said, I think I want to have a podcast one day. But I have learned when God prompts me to follow those promptings and obey. And so I'm excited to see what it has turned out to be. And we do pray that lives continue to be changed through this. But one of the things that we like to do for our guests when they come is, how can we be supporting you? What things do you have going on that you would like to, maybe mention, or that we can support you?
Yeah, I would. So I'm just on a mission to help veterans transition out of the military. So whatever anybody could do, if you're a veteran and can help another veteran, do that. And I think our country probably needs it now more than ever, not just with COVID, but how polarized our nation is. I think veterans have learned that we can get, hey, when you're sitting there, it doesn't matter if the person next to you is black, white, green, brown, doesn't matter what their religion is. We were able to come together and meet a common goal. And I think the more of those type of folks who can, populate our country and communities and companies around the US, the better off we'll be. So just help them, because they do need a little help, and we don't know what we don't know, but that would be my ask. Just do that. I don't need anything. Just do that. And I think our country will be better off.
Awesome. Where do we get your book?
Amazon. You can get on Amazon. I think anywhere else you can buy books online, like Books A Million, Barnes and Noble, stuff like that. It's cheap. I don't make any money off it. There's about $1 from it that goes to the SF to Biz nonprofit. The rest goes to Amazon or whoever's printing it. But I think it's an easy, quick read, and I've heard from hundreds of people that it's made a difference in their life, and that made it worth it to me to do it.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit more about your foundation.
Yeah, so it's SF to Biz. Now, all of us are Green Berets who have, gotten out, are successful within 1 to 4 years or so, and we just want to help out. So because we all have full-time jobs, it's, right now we just connect people with mentors. Connect them with mentors, we can resume reviews, connect them with opportunities. We want to continue to develop further so we can actually put some funding behind, and that's where the money from the book comes. So we can fund, whether it's a scholarship to go to college, whether it's a scholarship to go up to the Tuck Next Step program that I did, which is an amazing 2-week program up at Dartmouth, whatever that is, that's where, our funding will go.
Nice. Awesome. And we love a good challenge in the military. So what's your challenge for us?
Yeah, so I think this is kind of goes along with, what Mark said about random acts of kindness, right? I'm a big believer in that. So I know it's tough times right now. People have lost jobs, lost loved ones maybe, or know of somebody that has died, know somebody's sick, know somebody's in danger of losing their business. I ask this: stop worrying about yourself for a second and do a random act of kindness for someone else. It can be as simple as waving to your neighbor and saying hello from a safe distance. But whatever it is, do something for someone else, because there's scientific proof that makes you feel better about yourself. But then it ends up coming back around, and you for whatever you want to call it, it comes back around. The more you help people, the more, you never know when sun comes. So do something for someone else, and then get back to focusing on yourself. And it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be monetary. If you want to come mow my lawn, like, you can do that. And I will chalk it up and tell the big man you did a random act of kindness. But no, seriously, like, just do something. And it can be so simple, but I think it can be powerful. And if we try to do one of those a day,
yes,
that can make a big difference in our lives and the lives of others.
Oh, so true. One of the things I've noticed, I travel a lot for the foundation, so I'm typically gone a lot. And because I've been home for almost 2 weeks, I have walked a lot. 1 week before last was 42 miles. The week before that, 39. Last week I slacked off. It was only 35. This week I think I'm going to be up a little bit again, but I've been out in the neighborhood, and I can tell you probably 80% of the people that I've seen that are out walking their dogs, kids playing, riding their bikes, I've never seen in the 10 years that I've lived here. And so I think it's awesome, to have that. I hope that doesn't change when the quarantine's over. I hope people realize how important their community is and getting in touch with their neighbors. But as I would go by, I'd say, hi, how are you? Are you doing okay? Is everything okay? Do you need anything? And just that little thing, even if they said, no, I'm good, they're like, wow, somebody cared enough to ask if I'm okay, do I need anything? And I've had neighbors say that, the same thing back to me. And so I think that is so good, so important. Those random acts of kindness don't have to cost money. Even though Mark says when the last time you paid for a stranger's cup of meal or tank of gas. If you can do that, I'll tell you what, it is one of the coolest feelings to be able to do those things. So I think that's awesome. Hey, Ryan, what questions do you have for Herb today?
All right, joining in, Brother Herb.
What's up, Ryan?
Hey, shout out first, Miss Debbie. I do have to give Herb some credit here. I don't know how this has all come to fruition. Debbie, you're learning my memory is terrible. My wife can justify that very well. I call it two things. One, it's a blessing and a curse. I tell her all the time, it's a blessing because I can't remember what you did 2 weeks ago that made me upset or frustrated me. So that's all gone. I said, but it's a curse because I can't remember what you told me to do 5 minutes ago. Right? Either way. But I just want to share with everybody, Herb and I met somehow on LinkedIn, and I share with everybody, I'm pretty guarded about my network. So I'm very thankful that he opened up his doors to me when I tried to reach out to him. And that phone call that I gave you on a Friday, Debbie, was actually started by Herb that Thursday night before. I was introducing Herb to another good friend of mine who I've shared with you, Jake. And the three of us were on a phone call as an introduction. And Herb started telling me, he's like, Ryan, he's like, I got 2 to 3 people a day that are trying to reach out to me on transition. And they're just really having a hard time right now. Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to, come out of the military into this COVID-19 crisis and nobody's hiring, everybody's closing up doors. And what am I going to do job-wise? Or am I going to re-enlist? And I remember being on the phone with those guys. And I said, we got to do something. And I don't know what it is, but I'm going to figure it out. And we're going to do something. And I'm so, man, I get choked up a lot. So I'm going to try not to get choked up right now. But I'm just so grateful for Herb and for that conversation. And then just listening to the way God has moved this whole program and where we are today. And I couldn't be more fired up to have him as a guest today. It's been blowing up since he started the transition piece here after his amazing story, brother. So again, what a story. Thank you for being so transparent and open and authentic with that, Herb. It was amazing. I'm so thankful for you, brother. But people are engaged with transition right now. And I think Herb's doing great works in a great space. I know Joel mentioned it a little bit earlier. So thank you, brother. You're really making a difference and people are really needing this. So that being said, I got long-winded here, brother. Let's get to some questions. My experience is that transitioning out of the military is complex and can be challenging. Are the challenges of the current situation, containment, isolation, lack of control, and other demands impacting on you and being compounded by your transitional process?
Yeah, so I think it depends where you're at in the transition. If you're a year out, this is, I don't want to say perfect time because it's so horrible for so many people. But for most people, or a lot of people, they're home or work from home, and maybe they're thinking those random acts of kindness, and you can reach out to them and network and prepare your environment for your mission of when you get out. If you're getting out in the next week or two or, month, yeah, it's tough. It's a tough environment. Companies are still hiring, but then again, a lot aren't. So again, have a plan and then have contingencies, PACE plan, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. What are you doing? And don't just have one. I did that on my transition. Granted, it wasn't in COVID times. I said, I'm doing this. And it didn't work out. And I was like, oh, crap. So, have that plan and make it a thorough plan.
Can you repeat that, Herb, that you just said? Because I think it's such a good point. I want to make sure that the listeners hear that. It's not just the primary. What did you call that? You said
PACE plan. So in the military, especially, as Green Berets, that we focus on contingencies, and that's probably where we spend a lot of our time, is figuring that, because stuff's going to go wrong. Murphy's
Right.
there, life's there. So we plan for those contingencies. So when a contingency happens, it may not be the same thing, but we've planned something close enough to where we can instantly just adjust and go for it. So PACE plan, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. Go for it. Go.
I think it's great. I think that's part of what we're talking about, adapt and overcome too, right,
Yep.
Mama Lee?
Yep.
You
It's
bet.
having that secondary, that third, that fourth option, and being, I call it being flexible and open to actually using those, right? We get so
Yes.
locked in sometimes to that primary, almost feel devastated or a failure if it doesn't come to fruition, right? That's so easy to fall in trap of. And I just love how you put that, brother. Somebody's asking, and probably missed earlier on the webinar, how did you escape HR being colorblind? So,
So yeah, I actually did that for quite a while. I didn't like it, but I did my job, did it the best of my ability. And there's an alternate colorblind test that I forget the name of it, but it's essentially a red square and a green square, and you have to tell which it is. So I went to the clinic to get my physical, and they never heard of it. And it was like, I showed them like, no, this says the alternate test. So I was like, hey, put the red square up on the left, put the green square on the right. I got to tell you which is the red one. They did that, and I was like, that's the red one. They're like, okay, you pass. And that was how I was able to pass the colorblind test.
that's so good, man. So good.
Like I said, I knew it was similar to Chris's story of just saying, I just did what the recruiter told me.
So good.
So it only affects me at stoplights, actually, but I know they're in the order. And then
Right.
jump lights in a plane, when we would jump, are red and green, but I knew one was on, that was the red one. The next one coming on was green. So that'd be
There
good.
you go. There you go. Smart man. Any tips for detachment in light of focusing on task at hand?
For detachment.
Yeah, detachment.
Yeah. So I take that to mean detachment of like, hey, you're separated from others right now.
Mhm.
This is a good time that, it's a hard thing to do is some honest self-reflection. And hey, where am I at in life? Where do I want to be? What am I doing to do that? And being honest, okay, it's easy to have some reflection. It's a little more difficult to look in the mirror, sit out on the back deck wherever you're at and say, hey, I'm messing up. I need to do something. Or maybe I'm doing well, but I can do this better. So that would be my number one thing, would be to do that. Number two, it's like a deployment, right? I kind of put this in deployment mindset for those that have deployed overseas, is get a routine established, talk to your friends and family, figure out a way to do that. I mean, with technology now, it's easy to do. Work out, even if it's just walk. I went and took my dog for a walk. My body hurts, but hey, I went and took the dog for a walk. That was for me. So if we do that, and then just, try to have some fun and smile. I don't care what it is you're doing, but try to do that, because it's contagious to others, but it makes you feel better too. And I think that's some ways to deal with it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I have noticed though, when you're out in public and if you got a face mask on,
Yeah.
kind of stinks, because you'll smile at somebody like I normally do walking by, and they have no clue that you just smiled.
Yeah, I did notice that too, Mama Lee. And then I looked over at the guy next to me, and he had a ski mask on, and I was like, well, that's probably the only time this can happen in a grocery store. I had
Exactly.
a head wrap from Iraq on my head, and he had a ski mask, and I was like, well, okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say, how do you get a mask on that beard, brother?
That just goes over it. Like,
Yeah. All right. Let's see. So obviously you're exposed in terms of your home office, and we're getting a lot of great questions of the merchandise and paraphernalia in there. But the question is, what does the C on your jacket represent?
oh, it's Cornell. So Cornell University up in Ithaca, New York. Somehow they accepted my, highly uneducated butt into their executive MBA program. So I try to support them as much as possible, because they took a chance on me.
That's awesome, man. Somebody did say you could always write the word "smile" on your mask. So
There you go. Great idea.
great idea. Hey, I had two other questions. Actually, they're mine too. If you got a second, Herb, I think they.
I got all the time in the world.
So I'm curious what your interest was in the Army so early on, and you sounded pretty persistent. What took you that direction?
Yeah, I think there wasn't one thing. I had some family members serve. I found out later my grandpa was an infantryman in the Korean War. I didn't know that until after I joined. But I think it was just small town stuff where your parents took you. And we didn't have money, but we went to the Memorial Day parade. We went to the Veterans Ceremony. When you did Little League, they played the Star Spangled Banner. We said the pledge, little things that like that at the time you don't think it's a big deal. That was probably the real formative years that shaped my thinking. I read a article, I think it was a National Geographic, about a Green Beret, and I was like, I want to be that. And then, and then I just kept going, and the more it built, and I mean, honestly, I would love to say it was all 100% ma, pa, apple pie for America, but there was not any other options for me to get out of where I was. I was self-aware enough to know I wasn't going to do good at college. We didn't have money for it. And I would just end up what happened to a lot of people I went to high school with. So I was like, I need to get out of here. The military is a way to do it. My sister had served a couple of years before me. So it was just like, this is where I was meant to be.
That's
What
awesome.
year did you go in, Herb?
1998.
1998, so pre. Yeah, my oldest son went in August of 2000. My son-in-law went in October 2000, and Mark went in May of 2001. So all three of my kids' lives were involved in the military on 9/11. I could see the handwriting on the wall. I knew I'd have a loved one deploy. Had no idea that I'd end up having one give their life, but so proud of Mark and the choice that he made to give his life to save his teammates. And, it's pretty cool to see how God continues to use not just the way Mark gave his life that day, but how he lived his life, who he was. His last letter home is such a precious gift to us. That was not the letter that, if you're reading this, I'm gone. He wrote it 2.5 weeks before, intended it to go to, I think there's maybe about 12 people on the email thread that he sent it to, but wow, what a powerful letter. If you guys listening have not read that, please go to our website at americasmightywarriors.org and read that. I don't know if our listeners are aware, but in the movie American Sniper, Mark was Chris's officer, the SEAL that was killed in combat. And in that funeral scene, that's supposed to be me reading part of Mark's amazing last letter home. And I don't exaggerate when I say millions and millions of lives have been changed by Mark, by how he lived his life, gave his life, that letter, what we're doing at America's Mighty Warriors. And that young man was a believer. I will see him again one day. And I always tell people he was so doggone competitive, he beat me to heaven. But Herb, it's been awesome to have you on. Thank you. Can't wait till one day we will be able to meet personally and I can give you a hug, and thank you for doing this and for your years defending me and my freedom. I do not say that lightly. Every man and woman who's defended me and the freedoms I enjoy every day, I love you. I appreciate you. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. So please know we're here at America's Mighty Warriors. I was just a little convicted when Doug was praying that, we have to take a knee and ask for help. And it's been difficult for us as a foundation. We've lost a lot of funding, and I've been working on a lot of financial things lately and trying to figure out how we're going to continue our mission as strong as we are. And I could use some help financially. I know some of you maybe have, gotten your stimulus, whatever they're calling the money that we get back if we haven't made over 75,000. If that's not something you need and you can give that to America's Mighty Warriors so we can continue our mission, we have about 45 of our veterans that are currently going through our Helping Heroes Heal program. And that's at a cost to $10,000 to $13,000 per veteran that goes through that. We need help to finish our mission strong. I want to be so sensitive because I know so many people don't have that money right now. They are trying to figure out how to feed their families. So if that's you and those are the circumstances you're in, we're not asking you for that. But if you are someone or somebody, lots of times our sphere of influence, we've got our campaign 20 in 2020. And if we can get 2,020 people to sign up to give just $20 a month on a recurring basis, that's more than half our budget for our year. And then we can keep funding those 45 veterans that are in there and continue to add new ones in there. That's, I think, sometimes some of the most difficult things for me to do there, to ask for help. But again, if you're going to be a good leader, as we talked about earlier, you have to be willing to do that. So if you're in that place, thank you. We would love that help and support. But Herb, thank you. May God bless you and what you continue to do and helping those in transition. And tell your boys I said hello. They don't know me, but I love kids, so.
Yeah, was this the second one that didn't have a child interruption? I was
Oh,
waiting for the dog
darn,
or-
we didn't have any interruptions
I
here.
know. I was waiting for somebody to bust open the door here.
Oh, no, yeah, we gotta have something. I live by myself, so that.
Herb, you lock him out or what, brother?
Well, I did say, hey, it's very important. Do not interrupt. And they-
Oh, threat. Okay, I got you.
it was encouragement, positively.
Encouragement, right? Strong encouragement not to enter.
Well, thank you all. Please spread the word. We have go through May 9th and still have a lot of other amazing guests that are coming on. So please share and encourage others to come on so we can help encourage them and give back to them as well. God bless you all. We'll see you tomorrow for On Me 20, podcast number 9.
Thank you, Mama Lee. God bless.
Thank you, you too.
When fear flashes its teeth like a lion, when evil roars and walls begin to shake, there's a strength that's not my own. There's a fire in my bones. He is with me and his hand is ever on me. Follow on me. We're marching out into the night. Follow on me. We're standing up against a giant. Follow on me. We might be walking in the fire, but if it's where we're meant to be, then on me.